morning, good afternoon, good evening all. It's Bear here and welcome to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid, a channel dedicated to working with and understanding and healing the lived reality of complex trauma. Now this next video, we're going to explore a little deeper into those fundamental questions that I asked in the previous one. And this video is primarily on the first one, which is around how do you define safe? And it's entitled, The Beginning of Everything is Defined by Being Safe. And we really need to understand what that actually means. So through this video, I'm going to be going into this question of safe a little deeper. So here are some of the ways that we can explore the rabbit hole of being safe. As I said, the easiest question is, how do we define safe? Then it's, what does safe actually mean? And then it's also, what does safe or being safe actually feel like? And lastly is, how do we know that we are safe? In working through these questions, and really started to explore them, we start to not only reconnect with ourselves, we start to look at what we need to build an ecology that is going to support us. Because I know myself, particularly when you come from an early childhood base, we are taught to do whatever we're told to have, to whatever we're told to do. We have this innate mechanism as part of our survival connection, as part of that trauma script of connection, of seeking to be part of, to survive. We build this assessment process of looking at what other people require us to be and what other people require us to do in a fundamental quest to actually feel safe. But when you look at healing trauma, none of that's going to work, because it's built on something that is a survival state, not a healed state. So when we start to look at what our body requires to be safe, as I said in the previous video, yeah, we have food, shelter, clothing, and safety, and they are the fundamental basics. When we start our healing journey, food security is a large part of it. Having a stable enough environment, because you're going to have a few days here and there where you're not going to want to move. You're going to need time to mourn and process and so forth. And it's having those resources in place. But fundamentally, it's being able to build a place within your living reality, a living structure, a concept, an understanding, a process of being safe, of being part of. And that is a huge task and takes a long time to build. That is why answering these questions is so critical. It's not about getting this in place before you start this journey. This is one of the goals of our journey, of doing these understandings and looking at how we can heal, how we connect and so forth, so that we can build this holy grail of belonging. But we also need to define the steps along the way. And this is what, writing this stuff down and answering these questions is there to help us. Is you get to see your achievements. You get to see what you've been able to change. Now, safe is something that is far more complicated than we give it credit for. See, for me, going back to the title of this channel, The Box, that plastic crib became my family, my prison, and my sanctuary. And what I mean by that, it was the size of the environment I was primarily able to control. So as a young child, I felt safe. I defined my ability to be safe from those that constantly were trying to harm me by hiding away in this tiny cupboard and locking myself away. Majority of my childhood I spent hiding in small places, which is rather ironic because I'm not a small man. But I still seek that space in one form or another when put in situations of conflict, purely to be able to define the parameters. And that's how my body defined a controllable enough space to know what was happening, and to know what was happening, I knew what I had, and that was as close to safe as I would get. And for a lot of us, when we work with complex trauma, our own experiences of trauma, that's what we do. We will create enough of a controllable spot where we know we have the resources. We know we can get through. We know we will survive, and we will play that out over and over and over and over and over again. But that's not what this channel is about. For us, this is about beginning the journey of healing. And constantly reinforcing that survival state is not healing. And trust me, you will hit a point in your life where that state will fail. It's inevitable. And when it does, the reality is very unpleasant. Now, I had that 13 years ago when I was away in Canada. And I had an illness that tipped me over the edge. And as an adoptee, we have this structure, the attachment of adoption is a survival script. It's a survival state. And that is as much physiological as anything else. And that collapsed because I contracted Lyme disease when I was on reserve helping out at a conference. And that tipped my system over the edge, and I fell through the floor. And I'm still dealing with the health ramifications from that. And that is something to understand when you're looking at traumatic experience. It is about 90% physiological and 10% mind. Not what the majority of the world believe, that it's a mental illness. It ain't. It engages so many physiological and neurological components within our physiology that the majority of this is physical. And only a small part is mental. So that is why building this base of understanding and asking the question of what it is you actually feel. What does safe feel like? What does safe feel like it means to you? What is your emotional self and your felt sense experience around that? What do you require to feel that? Can give you the tools and the goals to start to bring these things in. I know for some, music plays a huge part in being safe. I know for some, movement plays a huge part. For some, having a structure, having a purpose and meaning. For me, all of those play a huge part. Ceremony and rituals play a huge part for safe for me. Having that ability to be around my ancestors and my hopes of being heard and my hopes of being part of is a huge part of the felt sense of safe. All of these things you start to realize when you ask these questions and when you really invest the time in answering them. Because trust me, when Pandora's box of a trigger is opened and you're in a full PTS state, the answers to this, the resources you bring is what's going to ground you and help bring you back and give you the tools to be able to work within that state to heal, to work to release the triggers, and to release the neurological responses of stored trauma and so forth, and to improve your health and all the other components associated with traumatic experience. So as always, please be kind, please be gentle, please take the time and invest in your well-being. And I humbly ask also that you take the time to like and subscribe to this channel, as there will be regular content and so forth, but also it helps me to know that this channel is evolving as a supportive resource for you. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. I am just trying to put out to the world a legacy of what I have learned and what I've known, with the hope that it will be helpful and the hope that it will be useful. And as always, I love your connections and interactions. I love your questions. It helps me to develop the future videos and what to cover and how to help you with your understanding and your own healing journeys. So as I said, please take the time to interact. Now here are those other questions. Again, the way of expanding that about being safe. How do we define safe? What does safe actually mean? What does safe actually feel like? And how do we know when we are safe? So as I said, take the time to really explore these questions and what they feel and what you feel the answers are. Keep that journal going. Be safe, be kind to yourself. And I will see you next time. I hope.